Hello, Stephen Gardner here from Team Vision Farming. Vision Farming is based on 5 pillars: people development, animal health and welfare, nutrition and production, soil biodiversity and the environment. So we're talking today about soil and biodiversity. We're going to try several new things on our farms. We're going to try reduced nitrogen fertilizers, cover crops, multi-species swards, silage additives, slurry additives, and we have Owen Finneran here from Farmeye who's going to put a benchmark on it for us and then show the impact we're having across the board on everything to do with the soil and as much biodiversity as we can get into it. So Owen, can you tell us more about what you're going to be able to measure for us?
Yeah, thanks very much Stephen and Tommy there for having me down. It's fantastic to see what you're doing here in this project here for Vision Farming. So look at what we're doing in Farmeye is we're all about being able to measure, capture and manage data at farm level, specifically relating to soil health and biodiversity. And you know what we're looking at here today is we're looking at sort of assessing the 3 key pillars. They're like the 3 legs of a stool for soil health. You have your chemical fertility, you have your soil structural assessment, and then you have the soil biological health. So they're the 3 pillars, and you know, if any one of those is lacking in any way, the whole stool keels over. And you know, we've just been doing a little trial plot here to look at soil structural analysis in this case, and we're conducting a grass VES assessment. That's a visual estimation of soil structure. And what we're finding here is that you have actually quite a good structure in the rooting zone, but then as you go below that into the lower layers, there's a good level of compaction, and that is causing problems in the soil with rooting depth. So your rooting zone there is limited in quite a bit of this field to 3 and 4 centimeters. And what that means is that, you know, if weather conditions are ideal, as I say, the health and the structure in the rooting zone is quite good. But if weather conditions are not ideal, if you get a period of drought in the summer, this field will burn up very quickly because there's a lot of compaction there just at that 4 to 5 centimeter layer in the soil.
Yeah, no, we can tell you that from experience that it doesn't take long for especially this farm to dry up. But we've looked at worms as well.
I have a handful of worms here. I'm not going fishing. So Owen, like the amazing thing for me here looking at this is we spend so much time looking above the ground, right? Animals, swards, obviously. So much of what's happening and what the future will be is in the soil. And with a shovel there, we've just gone in. We've got a worm count here of 13 per square feet. Maybe just simply, you said about our root depth being a bit shallow. Stephen mentioned we're looking at mixed species swards to drive down that root length, improve soil quality, cover crops. These guys here in my hand, these 13 buckos that we picked out of this square foot, what do they mean?
Absolutely, yeah. So they're kind of the top of the food chain in the soil.
Okay.
So they're a very, very useful indicator of biological health in the soil. So if you have a good worm count, and a good worm count for an area like that would be up into the high teens, low 20s, we would have seen worm counts in a very good sample up to 26, 27, 28. So you're in kind of the second tier here.
Okay, division 2.
Division 2, yeah, which is not bad, but could do better.
Okay.
And I would say a big part of the could do better is actually going with what's happening deeper down.
Okay.
And there is that, basically as you go below that 3, 4, 5 centimeters, there is a dearth of both earthworms and all sorts of other biological life down there. And it seems like the biggest particular kind of restricting factor in this field is that physical compaction layer.
Right, well, I'm going to put them back in. Right, one of the things there, and Stephen said it here for us, is measuring, right? And we've done a lot of the animal health stuff here on the farm and production stuff, but we need to set a benchmark for where our farm is, right? And then we can set our goals, and that's, you know, if you're going to make progress in anything, that's the way to do it. So just talk to me about how Farmeye is going to help us achieve our benchmarking, and then as we set our goals, how we're going to measure along the way and how you're going to help us in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're all about, as I say, in Farmeye is about the measurement to manage. Okay. So like anything in life, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. And the first step for any farm, if you haven't got a good baseline already, is to get your baseline. So get your measurements for the physical, the chemical and the biological assessments of the soil. And then you want to see progress over time. So you want to take the actions here that you're doing with the cover crops, building soil organic matter, and you want to see what impact is that having on the chemical, the physical and the biological health of the soil over a 2, 3, 4 year period.
And are we? I know that, like, I've seen Stephen has shown me the maps of the farm. Like, it's high tech stuff. I'm not a high tech guy now, right? So, but there's a lot of tech involved in.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going back. We're digging up the soil, but we're also looking at technology to enable that
Absolutely.
journey for us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as I do say, there's really only two tools you need. You need a spade and a smartphone.
Okay.
And that's it. You know, every farmyard has a spade in it. We all have a smartphone pretty much in our pockets. So that's pretty much all you need. What we're focused on in FarmEye is a means of capturing this data in as simple and I suppose easy to use manner as possible for the farmer. The farmer doesn't want 20 different apps on the phone. So we use satellite imagery, we use drone imagery analysis, as well as the sampling on the ground to record things like crop health and soil health over a period of time.
Brilliant.
What I found from using the app, it's very simple, color coordinated. You can just click on which one you want, and it shows you very clearly which fields are lacking, which ones are good, which ones need improvement.
Yeah, yeah. That's a big thing is the color coded maps. It's very simple.
Very simple.
But if you have those color coded maps in your pocket, it's a very handy guide. We have farmers out there who will just take a screenshot on the phone of the color coded map, and they'll WhatsApp it to the contractor, and they'll say, the slurry is going on the red and yellow fields. And it's a very, very, very simple interpretation of a fertilizer plan. But that's what's good about it.
Yes.
It's easy, it's very easy to manage and deal with, and it does work.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things we're doing is we have a very unique slurry inoculant going into our slurry this year. We'll be measuring quality of the slurry, and it's going to improve composting, etc. But we can track that slurry then when it goes out on as regards growth rates. We can know what nitrogen we're putting in. We can see the reductions in nitrogen. So you're giving us a roadmap, are you?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're not going to be doing it for us, so that'd be great. But you're giving us a good roadmap.
Yeah, absolutely. Like anything, it will probably change over time as well. So that's the beauty of the FarmEye system, is that it's fully it can be customized and it can be modified as you go through the year. So if you go through the year and at some stage you miss an application, a chemical fertilizer, or for some reason the weather is too wet, you can just go in there and you basically just say, well, we missed this particular spread, and your annual budget will be updated automatically for the year. So it'll basically divide the remainder of your allocation over your other application periods later on in the year.
Okay. Soil is becoming sexy.
Yeah, for a change, it kind of fell out of favour there for a long time. A lot of it down to, in my view, the way that I suppose for a lot of farm inputs, the more than the price of oil, they came down in price a lot over the last 30 years in particular. But now, as prices of fertiliser and so on are going up, farmers are going to have to pay a little bit more attention to it, same as they did before. In the previous generation, or probably our grandparents' generation, a lot of it is just going back to the knowledge of the soil that they had.
Yeah, it's fascinating there. I feel like we're around in a circle. If anyone saw us just looking in, digging a hole, counting worms, it's like being a child again. All our hands are dirty, but it is amazing when you actually look into the structure.
Yeah, yeah, and it's great, just as you said, to get down on your hunkers there and down right down at soil level and see what's going on. It's the simplest thing to do, but it's amazing how few farmers do it. It's just to get out with a spade, dig a few trial plots, dig in the bad field as well as the good field, and just do your visual comparison for your own farm, because nobody is going to be a better advisor for the management of your farm than yourself.
Yeah. Well, look, this is the very beginning of a project that we're on, so it's very exciting to start learning about it, and there's a lot more to come.
Thanks guys.
So there's several things we can measure, or we can measure and are going to measure, really. So from our end, we're going to be able to measure growth rates from our plate meter cutting records. We're going to be able to measure the fertilizer application, and we're going to be able to measure the stocking rate. And then everything beyond that then is where the experts come in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then on the soil side, so you'll have measurements there for the physical health, you'll have measurements for biological health, and you'll have measurements for the chemical health of the soil. So you'll have your pK, pHs and your trace elements for chemical. You'll have your earthworm counts as an indicator of biological health, and then you can do your physical visual estimation of soil structure, your grass vest assessments for measuring the structural.
And you can log all that on the
FarmEye
app.
It can all be recorded through the FarmEye app on the phone.
Right.
And the beauty of that then is everything is plotted on the online map. so you're not having to look at tables or spreadsheets. You can see it all visually on the map of the farm, and then track it over time.
Yes, yeah, and you can do a multitude of things. Like you can go as far as away from the soil as space to take pictures and stuff. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the satellite imagery is something that we're doing a lot of R&D work on. And the reasoning behind that is because these satellites are passing over a couple of times a week, every week. And it's a low cost way of capturing data over a period of time. So the difficulty with it is that over a short time span, you're not going to learn a whole lot from it. So you can't use it, for instance, for grass budgeting purposes, because you're not going to get enough visual images in a month.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, it is very valuable, for example, over a 2 or 3 year period, to rank the productivity of fields on a farm. So if you have 30 fields, you can rank them 1 to 30 on a productivity index.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting now as we use some like multi-species swards or cover crops. You'll be able to show how much better the soil is before and after. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, here with Owen Finneran from FarmEye, and there was an interesting discussion. We have shovels out here this morning. Owen, just a little bit of background on FarmEye, and I suppose we were talking about soil, and it's sort of similar to me. I obviously work in animal health, but I was drawn back to the soil by some of the diseases I saw.
Yeah.
If I was to ask you where FarmEye began and your interest in soil began, where did it all start?
Yeah, so I suppose my own background is, growing up in a family farm in Roscommon, sheep and suckler cows, and I was just mad about farming from an early stage, literally from the time I was in nappies. Put it this way, I had spreadsheets there in Excel when I was 7 years old, showing generations of cow breeding and this type of crack. So I went off then, went to college, UCD, followed on with the PhD there, looking at crop systems, and all gung-ho then to go back farming and reseeding and getting in crops and so on. And all of a sudden, a couple of years after I'd taken over the farm, we were seeing all sorts of deficiencies in sheep and in the cows, and stuff we hadn't kind of come across, or my father hadn't even come across before. And it just sparked my interest in trace element health. And ultimately that all came back to the soil and what was going on in the soil, and we're probably making mistakes there, maybe going with monocultures in places where multi-species sward might have made more sense, and this was having a detrimental impact, firstly on the soil health and how the grass was able to take up the trace elements, and then ultimately in the health of the cattle and sheep that were grazing on it.
Yeah, because I think there's a real link, and it looks similar fascination obviously with animals as well, and seeing, I suppose, the health issues I was seeing. And I've seen the trend in minerals go like this. I've been tracking silage analysis, and you ask and you ask and you ask and you dig and you dig and you dig like we're digging in the soil, and everything brings you back here.
Yeah.
To the root structure, to the soil structure, to the ability of the plant to uptake the minerals. Because look, the minerals aren't necessarily not there, but their ability to uptake them. Would I be right in saying that?
Absolutely, yeah. Availability and uptake, they're two critical words when it comes to the mineral health of soil, because oftentimes, as you say, things like phosphorus, there might be no shortage of it there, but uptake by the plant could be restricted, and then you run into all the knock-on health implications in the cow that's grazing on that grass.
Because anyone listen to this today, I've been talking about it all year, and for the last couple of years, cows eating stones, low phosphorus, come out of nowhere. Saw my first case 12 years ago. I was with a discussion group a couple of weeks ago. 40% of 20 odd people had an issue with cows eating stones this year. So the answer's in here. You're going to help us work on improving the quality of our soil. It's an exciting subject.
It is, yeah, it is, and it's back to basics, but it's where we need to go, because it's literally at the root of all success in farming.
If I go back to the 7-year-old boy with the spreadsheets, are we following dreams?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Nothing better than that. Good man.
All right.